Welcome to Explorer Classroom. My name is Gibbs Kuguru. I'm a shark scientist, National Geographic explorer, and your host for today. We're so excited to have you join us. At National Geographic, we believe that anyone can be an explorer and that you have the power to make a difference in the world no matter how old you are. Many of you are tuning in as part of the wildlife series. So thank you for joining us on our journey to learn about wildlife globally while taking action locally. And before we get into today's lesson, I'd like to welcome all of the following classes who are joining us today, especially Pond Cove Elementary School from Maine, USA, Goals Academy from California, USA, Clara H. Carlson Elementary School from New York, USA, Houston Public School from Ontario, Canada, and finally, Toluca Lake Elementary School from California, USA. Welcome, everyone. All right, today, our explorer is Fernando Trujillo. Fernando is a marine biologist who has dedicated his life to studying, protecting, and conserving the Amazon's pink river dolphins. Fernando was recently named the 2024 Rolex National Geographic Explorer of the Year. So congratulations to Fernando on that amazing achievement. Fernando lives in Bogota, Colombia, a country in South America, and his work takes him to the Tarapoto Ramsar site in the Colombian Amazon, very close to the border with Peru. We're so excited to have Fernando here live with us to share more about this incredible place, the importance of river dolphins in this ecosystem, and answer questions from all of you. So welcome to the show, Fernando.
Hi, Gibbs. Thank you very much. I'm so happy to be today here with all these students from different part of the world.
Yeah, and we are so excited to learn about the Pink River Dolphins today. So before we get started, can you tell us a little bit more about where and how you do your work?
Well, I'm working in the Amazon, in the largest tropical rainforest of the planet. It's almost 7 millions of square kilometers, and 9 countries have territories in the Amazon. Almost 20% of all fresh water in the planet come from the river Amazon. So the water is so important there. There are thousands of rivers that feed the Amazon. And there are very emblematic species there, living there, like the river dolphins, the manatees, the caimans, gemfish, piranhas, and even jaguars. Have you heard about, for example, flying rivers? Well, it turns out that in the Amazon, each tree can pump into the atmosphere almost 1,000 liters of water per day, and they form large clouds that travel with the wind in the Andes and other part of the world. Some people in New York can receive some drops of waters that come from the Amazon. And here in these images, I am working in a clear water river in the south of Brazil. This is very rare. Usually the rivers are very cloudy, very turbid water, but I have the opportunity to put my mask, my snorkel, and to study the behavior of dolphins. Usually, I need to take boats or large vessels to survey the whole Amazon. But in this area, you can see the dolphins underwater, like in the photo I have behind me.
That is so cool. Such beautiful imagery of this place. I really want to go. And when you're looking for the pink river dolphin, what features do you observe that are unique to this animal?
Well, river dolphins are quite different to marine species. So you can see here the very emblematic Amazon pink river dolphins. And you might see that they have a very long snout that serves them to stir up the river bottom and catch fish that hide there. And also in that snout, they have more than 100 teeth. And do you know that beside the teeth, they have molars like us? This is useful for chewing fish with external skeletons and even to crush turtles. They have small eyes, you can see, but they can see underwater quite well. But also because the water is cloudy, they have another system to orientate themselves through the songs, like the bats. This called echolocation. They can produce sounds underwater and they can detect the fish there. And another interesting thing you can see, the dorsal fin is not triangular like the bottlenose dolphin or a shark. They are very low because they need to go inside the flooded forest and underneath the floating vegetation. So it will not be easy if they had this very large dorsal fin. They have been adapting in the Amazon for almost 2 millions of years. They can turn the head side by side, and they have these huge flippers that can rotate and they allow them to move inside the flooded forest, flying in between the trees. So they are very, very particular species.
That is so cool. I mean, these dolphins have essentially made themselves suited to this environment by having smaller eyes, molars, shorter dorsal fins, so they can move through the environment. That is amazing. I am absolutely stunned by this. But there's one characteristic that you haven't shared yet about, and that is what makes the pink river dolphin pink. Students, it's time to test your knowledge in a quick guessing game. So teachers, get close to your keyboard so you can answer for your class. You're going to see a poll with the following question. What makes a pink river dolphin pink? Choose the answer that you think makes the most sense from the list. And the choices are A, the color of the river, i.e., the river water makes the dolphin look pink. B, camouflage. The dolphins change their color like a chameleon to protect themselves against predators. C, a dolphin's skin color changes to pink when they're active. Or D, diet. The food a river dolphin eats changes its skin color to pink. Now, teachers, you should see a poll on your screen now. I'm going to pause and be quiet to give you time to think and answer. Let's start the countdown. Okay, so this is really interesting. I've never seen this many answers for a single point. 90% of everyone listening and watching this has said the answer is D, diet. And then 10% has said color of the river. That means 0 people have selected camouflage or exercise as the option. Um, Great work. I'm now curious, actually, which choice was the correct answer on the poll. And fortunately for us, we have Fernando right here to tell us what makes the pink river dolphin pink.
Well, I know why they choose diet, and it's because the flamingos can turn into pink because they eat shrimps and some crabs. But in the case of river dolphins, is not the diet; it's the exercise. It's a response to regulate their body temperature. When they are very active, they are swimming fast. They are just pushing fish. The blood just go to the skin to regulate the temperature. It's the same for us when we are playing a sport. We are doing basketball and we turn very red. And it's because we are regulating the temperature of our body. So after a while, the dolphins became pink and they stopped to do exercise and move fast. They return to the original color, gray. So basically, it's the exercise. So I hope you learned something today about the pink river dolphins.
I have certainly learned something here today. I would have never guessed that. That was such a tricky question. And next time on Trivia Night, I'm probably not going to miss that question again. Thank you for teaching us, Fernando. And now that we've been introduced to what a river dolphin is like, I'd like to know why you study them. Can you tell us why river dolphins are important?
Well, they are so important for the ecosystems. They are the jaguars in the water. They are the top predators. River dolphins can be found in everywhere. in the main river, in the tributaries, in lakes, in confluents. If you have black caimans, for example, they are only in black lakes. If you have, for example, the big catfish, the large catfish, they are only in the main river. But the dolphins are everywhere. They are the top predators. And another thing is that they are, this is control. They used to eat the all fish and the ones that are ill. So they clean the river in some way. So they control all the diseases between species, especially with fish. And the other thing is that they act as a thermometer of the rivers. They are the sentinels of the rivers. If you have dolphins in the rivers, you can assume that they are healthy rivers. When you don't find dolphins, it's because there are not fish and the rivers is not in a good conditions. So they are thermometers of the river. We used to call like that.
Now, we see that dolphins have all of these different functions in the ecosystem, but what happens when they are not able to, yeah, fit in the ecosystem? Or I mean, are they under threat? Or are they getting the food they need? Yeah, but tell us what happens when we lose river dolphins.
Well, basically, you are losing these control species in the river. And also, they are so important for the local people, for the economy. A lot of tourists is developing these areas around the dolphins. And for the indigenous, they have a lot of stories about these incredible creatures. So we cannot lose the dolphins as we cannot lose the jaguars, for example. Is the same situation.
Mm. So these dolphins, they seem to be encountering a lot of different threats within the rivers that they live in. But I'd like to actually to ask the students what they think first. So students, we're going to play another quick guessing game. Teachers, get close to your keyboard so you can answer for your class. You're going to see a poll with the following question. What do you think are the main threats to river dolphins? You can pick more than one option for this poll. And the options are deforestation and overpopulation, B, pollution, climate change, and fishing nets, C, barriers in the river, or D, illegal hunting. Teachers, you should see the poll on your screen now. I'm going to pause and be quiet to give you time to think and answer. Let's start the countdown. All right, another interesting poll. So it seems like everyone is split between pollution, climate change, fishing nets, and illegal hunting. And both of those options are at 96% and 86% respectively. And then there's another split between deforestation and overpopulation and barriers in the river that are split around 45% and 40%. It seems like quite a difficult question. And when I see from YouTube, a lot of people are saying A, or sorry, all of them, or B, pollution, climate change, fishing nets. Fernando, do you mind sharing the correct answer to the poll and telling us a bit more about the threats that are facing river dolphins?
Yes, unfortunately, all you have right. All these threats are real for dolphins. We already lost more than 1 million of square kilometers of the Amazon. We are closing a tipping point of no return for the deforestation in the Amazon. Almost the 21% of the Amazon we already lost. We have a lot of fire. And also, there are a lot of big cities. There are a lot of people living in the Amazon now. 45 millions of people, and only 3.2 millions are indigenous. The other people just come from other cities, and they are in cities like this, that is Manaus. It's about 4 millions of people. Also, we have a lot of pollution because the cities and also the oil spills for the oil companies, and there are also mercury because the gold mining. And now we have a lot of problems with climate change. The last 2 years have been terrible for the Amazon, the most dramatic droughts in the Amazon. A lot of communities were isolated, and last year we lost 330 dolphins in 1 month because they were in a shallow waters, and the temperature were so high, 40 degrees, and they were in a thermic shock, and they died. That was an unprecedented. We never expect something like that. So we are now rescuing dolphins in different countries to avoid they die in shallow waters. But also, we have a lot of barriers in the rivers, and it's to produce electricity, the hydroelectrics. But the scale of these dams is huge, and they are just stopping the migration of fish, the movements of dolphins. There are some areas where dolphins are trapped, and we are going to need to take these dolphins and put in the main rivers to release the animals. So the scale of the hydroelectrics are so high, and we are worried because we have more than 250 dams in the Amazon. And ultimately, we have also illegal hunting. 10 years ago, there was a fishery that used dolphins as a bait. They hunt illegally the dolphins, and they kill more than 1,000 dolphins every year to use as a bait to capture a fish. And also in some countries like Venezuela, they started to eat dolphins in the Orinoco. But fortunately, we are stopping some of these threats, but there are a lot that are put in danger. These species that are in the category of endangered. So we need to take a lot of care with these animals, these species.
Man, uh, I'm kind of bummed to hear about the threats that these dolphins face and how they're probably struggling just to stay alive. And having you share these threats makes me wonder about the threats that other animals face. And students, I want you to close your eyes for a minute and picture the wildlife that you have identified during the series in your own communities. Do you have the images in your mind? Okay, now let's think about the threats that they might face. For example, in the Maldives, where I work, many sharks have been overfished. And this is because people want to sell them for food, and they maybe catch way too many until there's no sharks left. Now, I want to hear from you guys. Open your eyes. Students, share your answers with your teachers, and go ahead, teachers, and type those answers into the chat. And the question is, what threats have you seen to the local wildlife in your community? I'm going to pause for a second and be quiet to give you time to share your answers. Let's start the countdown. All right. The answers are coming in, and they're coming in hot. What are you guys saying? A lot of folks seem to be saying that garbage and littering are responsible for threatening wildlife. Um, Illegal hunting, or as we know it, poaching, seems to be also quite prevalent. This comes from Miss Kilgore's class also. Trefford Way Middle School says poisoning squirrels. That that really shocks me because it sounds like someone has gone out of their way to actually hurt these animals. I'm also seeing a lot of people saying that Animals seem to be getting hurt and killed via roadkill. That means people are driving into them. And this also comes from Mrs. Foster's class. And I think for me, just being careful on the road as a general rule of thumb is a great way to make sure that you're safe and that also the wildlife that you may encounter along the way is also safe. Cutting down trees, that's from Class 5O. And Class 5O also said that by cutting down trees, bees are getting killed. So, you're essentially removing the habitat, the home of these animals, and now they don't have anywhere to go. These are all really great answers, guys. So thank you for sharing. Fernando, I imagine that the student explorers joining us today are concerned about all the threats that Pink River dolphins face. Is there any work being done to protect them?
Absolutely. I have devoted my entire life to try to do some difference. And for example, we work a lot with local communities. We are doing a lot of surveys in all the countries. We have surveyed more than 84,000 kilometers of rivers in 7 countries. We are tagging river dolphins with some tags that are like air rings in the dorsal fin, and we can see what are the most important nursery areas, feeding areas for the dolphins. And now we can start to protect that areas. So we have created protected areas in different countries to protect the dolphins. We are promoting conservation agreements with fishermen. We are promoting the tourists, responsible tourists with river dolphins in some communities. And also, we are recovering the forests with indigenous people. We are planting a lot of trees, more than 45,000 trees in a single place. We are working with doctors as well and evaluating the health of these animals. And we need to work with local communities. They live there for more than 14,000 years, and the dolphins are so important. And we are training young indigenous for biodiversity monitoring. We are training them how to take the tourists and develop a good dolphin tourist practices. So it's very, very important. And I want to show you and share with you a song that probably you are not going to understand a lot because it's in Spanish and in Kuna language and in Portuguese. But these songs reflect how important are the dolphins for the local communities. So after the song, I will play only 1 minute. But after the song, I want you to share what do you think the song is about. And then I will let you know. I hope you enjoy it.
Vamos navegando al mismo río del delfín rosado y su mundo divino. Este río no tiene frontera, su agua fluye libre sobre la tierra. Nuna nada onyama iteya na yumaeru. Nuna nada onyama iteya na yumaeru. Guru iyeruna taga, guru iyeruna taga, guru iyeruna taga, runa taga gu ide agua. Now you maru, no you now you maru.
Wow. What a beautiful song. And honestly, I'm so inspired by the way you've brought community members together to protect these dolphins. Outstanding work, Fernando.
Yes,
Students,
I can see some reflections here about the saving the dolphins, and but the song is talking about the dolphins are free in the rivers. They don't recognize borders. They move free from one country to another. They are spirits of the water. So it's a beautiful song. You can find in Spotify, and we are just writing down in the chat where you can listen the whole song. And I hope you enjoy. But yes, the dolphins are so important for local communities.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I hope everyone gets a chance to see the link for the song in the chat, and really get a chance to absorb some of the beautiful work that Fernando is doing. Students, Fernando just shared what his organization is doing to protect Pink River dolphins and how local communities are also dedicated to his work. I have one final question before we move into the Q&A portion of the show. And this is, what ideas do you have to help the local wildlife in your community? For example, I spoke about some of these sharks that I'm working with in the Maldives that have been overfished. And what I want to do is work with governments and local communities there to help create areas where these sharks can live in and where people cannot fish in. It's called a marine protected area. And that helps that so that these sharks can actually grow and to become adults and then move off of these reefs and survive on their own. Right. Students, share some of the answers that you come up with your teachers, and teachers, go ahead and type those answers into the chat. Once again, the question is, what ideas do you have to help the local wildlife in your community? I'm going to pause and be quiet to give you some time to share your answers. Let's start the countdown. All right, let's get into it. From Mrs. Strauss, third graders. They said they want to encourage people not to litter and clean up the trash. That is a very proactive answer, because it means that you're not just stopping the litter, but you're also taking the time to actually take whatever litters in the environment and clean it up. For Mrs. Bucci's fourth graders, it says preserve more land with our Cape Elizabeth Land Trust. Yes, let's work with them. We need that. Mrs. Hagen Smith's fifth grade student says MPAs in our area, something similar for land areas too. We can certainly get into that. I believe there are land versions of MPAs, but I'm just a shark guy, so I don't know that stuff. Mrs. Sanford's third grader says plant more milkweed and other plants that protect our insects and animals that need to survive. You know, I think I really like that answer, because insects are some animals that don't get enough attention, and I think we need to protect them too. Insects need love too. That should be a hashtag. All right. McNear School fifth grader says not littering. And we have Trefford Way Kids School saying not littering, lots of not littering or not polluting. I mean, these are just really great, simple solutions to making sure that we care for not only our wildlife, but also for our environment. Right on. Okay, so thank you, Fernando, so much, really, for bringing us into the field with you for an incredible look at your work. It's almost time for the Q&A portion of the show, but for those of you joining us for the wildlife series, I would like to give you your next mission. This week, your mission is to take action to help wildlife. We want to hear about the solutions you come up with to make a difference in the local wildlife you've been learning about, and also your wildlife campaign to convince others why it's important to help them. Your educators will have your instructions. Educators, please keep using the mission completion form to let us know about the work that your students are doing. We'd like to give a special shout out to a few classes for completing last week's mission. And these classes are McNear Elementary from California, USA, Palatul Copilor from Bacau, Romania, Alderholt Home Education from England, and Washington Elementary from Minnesota, USA. Keep up the great work, guys. All right, now it's time to ask Fernando your questions. If you're watching on YouTube, send us your questions using the chat bar. We record all of them as they're sent in, so please send in each question only once. And teachers, please let us know who's asking the question so we can give your class or student a shout out. If you're watching on Zoom, use the hand raise function at the bottom of your screen to let me know that your class has a question. We will call on as many classes as time allows. And if we call on you, remember, prepare a nice loud voice to ask your question. And if you have any issues with your microphone, you can go ahead and type the question into the chat bar. And the first question from our audience is about Pink River Dolphins' personality. Fernando, how would you describe the personality of a Pink River Dolphin?
Well, you know, they are very curious. They are very curious. They approach a lot. If you are in the water, they approach, they come to the boat, they release bubbles. And that remind me, a couple of years ago, I was with a photographer of National Geographic, and we wanted to take some pictures. And the dolphins were around me, and I decided to dive. And when I dive, I lost my bandana. I always use a bandana when I am in the river, and that was my lucky bandana, and I lost, and everybody were sad, and we were okay. The photograph was is over, but 3 minutes later, I have a dolphins push me, and they have my bandana in the flipper, and they returned. They gave me back the bandana. So that is very special. This story is very funny. And now we are going to have in National Geographic an exhibition for the explorers, and they want to exhibit the bandana that the river dolphins returned to me. So they are very curious.
Oh, that's so cool. You know what? I want my next friend to be a Pink River Dolphin from the Amazon. Let's first start protecting them, and then maybe I can have a friend in future. Hannah from Cascadia School asks if you think the Pink River Dolphins have names for each other. Names.
Well, you know, this is a very good question. And we have discovered in the case of marine dolphins that the mothers can recognize the songs, the voices of each dolphin. Imagine, for example, 1,000 dolphins just moving and swimming in the ocean, how they are being together all the time. They recognize their voices and they can be far away and they come together. So it's in some way it's like they had a name, and we call this signature whistles, signature songs that can identify each animal from other. So it's a very good questions, and now we are finding out this.
Ah, so they identify each other based on the songs they sing. That is poetry. I love that. All right. Lots of classes on YouTube are wondering about dolphins. How big do they get? What's their average age? Do they have hair? And what do they eat? I can give you those questions again. Let's start with how big do they get?
2 meters 80, almost 3 meters, and they
2 meters,
can
hey.
eat 200 kilograms, 220. The males are bigger. Yes,
That's like 9 feet or something like that.
yes.
Okay. What's their average age?
50, 55 years old. Yes.
That's a long time to live. Do they have hair?
Ah, that's a very good question. And yes, they have a small whiskers in the snout. And this is a vestigial hair from a mammal. And we are very interesting. We are working with some universities in the United States studying these whiskers because they are very sensible. They detect the movements underwater, like the otters, but they are very short. You can note it more in the juveniles and the calves.
Did
Yes,
you say nose hairs?
yes,
They
yes.
have nose hairs.
In the snout,
Oh,
you have very small hairs.
oh, that's cool. And last question, what do they eat?
They eat a lot of fish, different species, more than 100 species of fish. But sometimes they can eat turtles as well. They are very curious, and they can, for example, eat an anaconda. So they eat everything in the water.
Whoa, man, with that crazy long snout, you wouldn't think a turtle would fit down their throat. That's crazy.
Crush the
All
turtle.
right. Huh? I suppose that's why they have molars, right?
Yes, exactly.
All right. Adrian from CSIA wants to know, how do pink river dolphins sleep? I want to know too.
That's an incredible question. Well, the dolphins are mammals that they breathe in a voluntary way. If they cannot sleep like us, if they are unconscious, they will die. So basically, they use only half of the brain to keep the surface and breath and going down. They have this kind of rest in the midday when there are a lot of temperature of the water is high and the fish are just gone. So they use this time to recover. But at night, they are very active. They are fishing. They go inside the flooded forest, but they don't sleep like us. This is
Mhm.
very interesting.
These are all really great questions. Thank you, everyone, for sharing. And we have time for only one more question. And the question is for Fernando. What final message do you have for the student explorers watching today?
Well, I think we have a fantastic planet. We are so lucky, but we are destroying this planet. This planet is a planet of water, and we need to keep this water. The water keeps us alive. So I want to invite you to be defenders of the waters in all your cities, in all your towns. Defend the rivers, defend the oceans, and try to keep this curiosity and passion will help you to go forward. And I want you to become the next National Geographic explorers. So keep this curiosity and fight a lot and help us to protect this planet.
Thank you so much, Fernando, for that inspirational message and for joining us today. You've really been an inspiration to all of us and me as well. And thank you to all of the students for engaging with us and for your thoughtful questions. As I mentioned earlier, we have a final mission for all of you students participating as part of the wildlife series. This week, your mission is to take action to help wildlife. We want to hear about your solution to make a difference for the local wildlife that you have been learning about in your wildlife campaign to convince others why it's important to help them. Teachers, please use the educator guide to learn more about this mission. For those following the wildlife series, the celebration event will be on Thursday, November 7th. You'll hear more from me about my own journey as a shark scientist, and we'll also hear from some of you about what you will do to take action on behalf of wildlife. Thank you, teachers, for bringing your classes to our show. Share about your experience on social media using the hashtag ExplorerClassroom. Also, be sure to check our website, natgeoed.org/explorerclassroom, over the coming weeks to view the remainder of our fall schedule and register for more exciting events. Be sure to join us on Halloween to learn all about the shipwrecking worm, more feared than pirates. When you register, you can request a chance to be featured up here on screen with us. And lastly, we would love to hear from you. Teachers, please take a moment to fill out this quick survey and let us know how you enjoyed today's show. The link is in the chat. From all of us at National Geographic, have a wonderful day, stay curious, and keep exploring. We'll see you next time on Explorer Classroom. Bye-bye, guys. See you later.